If you want to go into investment banking, one of the most important factors of your application is your education. Where you choose to go to school can make a drastic impact on your success when applying for internships and full-time roles at elite investment banks. Hey guys, my name is Cameron, and in today's video, I'll be breaking down the schools that make up the target schools for banking and high finance. I'll also discuss some established semi-targets, all with the goal of helping you become more aware of where you play. And all this information will be objective as it will be based on a study done by Peak Frameworks using data from LinkedIn. So shout out to Peak Frameworks. If you want to read their article, I'll have it linked down below in the description as well. This data is super helpful as without it, it's easy to incorporate some natural bias based on who you know and what you've been told. I think some of these results may shock you, certainly surprised me. So with that said, let's get into this video. Before diving into the list of schools, it's important that we establish the definition of a target school. A target school is an undergraduate university that sends significant numbers of their students into investment banking each year. They also then naturally have broad alumni networks in the industry, and the elite banks are known to focus their recruiting efforts on those schools and even might reserve spots for a fixed number of students from that college each year. A target school will have the majority of banks allocate spots and conduct on-campus recruiting, as well as have multiple alumni across all top firms. A semi-target school, on the other hand, will have at least one top firm that recruits at the school and may have alumni concentrated in one industry or geography. Certain schools and their relationship with oil and gas in Houston. A non-target school may still have a handful of bankers at top firms, but it's not consistent, and firms don't actively recruit at these schools. So now that we have the definitions established for target, semi-target, and non-target, let's dive into the data. To get these results, the team at Peak Frameworks collected the profiles of anyone with investment banking analysts or closely related terms as one of their job titles on LinkedIn. They then narrowed it down to those profiles who graduated between 2008 and 2023. They then filtered by roles in the US only, as they felt, rightfully so, that the most attractive IB roles and firms are based here in the US. But this doesn't mean that they removed any international universities from the list. You will soon see that there are a few that make the list. Finally, they only kept the people who worked at the top investment banks that you can see on the screen now. This makes sense, as the whole point of this exercise is to see where do the top firms recruit. So from a strictly volume perspective, meaning the schools that have placed the most bankers at top firms include, in order, the University of Pennsylvania, NYU, University of Michigan, and UT Austin. Penn, of course, is no surprise, as it's been regarded as the best undergrad business school for years. But NYU, Michigan, and Texas all have great business programs and a placement metric that is fueled by the huge student bodies that each of these schools has. You can see on the screen now the list of the top schools based on total hires, but a more fair way to determine the true targets is by performing weighted ranks, because as you saw, the previous list certainly over-indexes to those large schools. But even the weighted ranking is definitely not perfect, but it does take into consideration more of that prestige factor. The way Peak Frameworks did this is by giving 2/3 weight to the number of total hires and the final 1/3 weight to the undergrad placement percentage. This percentage is the total number of hires divided by the number of undergrads at the school. So obviously this method is still imperfect, as it heavily penalizes those large schools due to their huge student body population, but we're doing the best that we can. From my perspective, the number of total hires really is the more important metric. It's an advantage to go to a large school due to the larger alumni network, the on-campus resources, as well as just more student orgs get involved in. So on the screen now, you will see the top 30 schools based on this new weighted value. You will notice now that the top 4 changes a bit and is now made up of Penn, Georgetown, Harvard, and Columbia. All the other traditionally prestigious schools are now on this list as well. I'm happy to see my alma mater, the University of Florida, sitting at 44 on the weighted list and 37 on the total hires list. But anyway, I think this weighted list is a much better representation of what schools truly are the best for IB, as any student at UM or Texas would probably be reluctant to say that they're the number 3 or 4 best school to get into the industry. So based on the weighted rankings, the top 15 schools that can officially call themselves a target include Penn, Georgetown, Harvard, Columbia, NYU, Cornell, Notre Dame, Michigan, Yale, Texas, Princeton, U Chicago, UC Berkeley, Duke, and Virginia. Each of these schools has plenty of alumni at each of the top investment banks and already part of the on-campus recruiting pipeline. The schools that fall into the semi-target ranking include University of Southern California, Dartmouth, BYU, Stanford, SMU, Northwestern, Indiana University, Emory, Brown, UCLA, Western, Vanderbilt, Rice, and UNC Chapel Hill. You'll notice that several of these schools have strong ties to certain regional hubs like BYU and Salt Lake City, or SMU and Rice with their focus on oil and gas in Texas. Then there's the lower semi-target schools that make up spots 31 through 60. And finally, the rest are, unfortunately, non-target schools. So I hope this video was helpful for you to see where your school ranks. Just because your school isn't a target or even a semi-target does not mean that breaking into IB can't be done. It just means it's going to be a bit harder, which realistically just makes it even more rewarding in the end. I really would love to hear what you guys think of this list. Were there any names on the list that maybe caught you totally off guard? Definitely let me know down below. And thanks again to Peak Frameworks for this detailed analysis. If you want to check it out for yourself, I've included the link down below. Also, if you enjoyed this video and you're not already subscribed, I recommend doing so because I post 2 new videos every single week that are all focused on helping you become the best version of yourself. And with that said, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Galbraith, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.